Lindsay, Brent, and Scott and Matt of Primrose Path fame, thank you so much for joining me on the AndoVocals podcast. It's a pleasure and honour to be speaking with such a gem of the Aussie metal scene. First up, can you please introduce yourselves, including your roles in the band, and drop us a little fact about yourselves. Can you please kick it off, Lindsay?
Okay, so I'm Lindsay Rose. I'm the singer of Primrose Path. A little fact about myself, I have 3 Siberian Huskies.
I'm Brenton Lush. I am the guitarist, or one of them, for Primrose Path. Fact about myself, oh god, there's too many. I'll go with the sad one. I have Crohn's. Yeah, that's a fun one.
Represent.
Far out, man.
Yeah, we can't let Brenton recover, because when he feels good, he writes really happy music and it's shit. So I'm joking. Brenton, sorry, I'm joking.
Yeah, I'm Scott. I play bass. And an interesting fact about me, I didn't step foot outside of Australia until last year. So,
wow.
Yeah.
So only just got your passport then?
Yeah, a couple of years ago. I've been in WA pretty much my entire life. So, yeah, a bit boring in that regard.
Where'd you head to?
I went to Thailand. It was
fantastic.
Yeah.
What took you to Thailand?
I was with my girlfriend. She loves it there. Yeah. So I agreed to go with her, and yeah.
I'm Matt Gashk. I'm the other guitarist at Primrose Path. I'd say an interesting fact is that I was only able to get into this band through Scott, because we were in a Opus tribute band together, and I don't know, he needed someone to fill in the spot, and he saw me, so here I am.
Fantastic.
Like, we need that guy.
For sure.
Play Opus that well, it's like, okay, Matt, before you join any other band, we're taking you. Like, that's it. Like, it was a power play, man.
Awesome stuff. So, first up, congratulations on the upcoming full-length release titled Ruminations, dropping on Friday, Feb 28. I've had a listen, and it absolutely slaps. The album has been described as blending modern prog rock metal with 90s sonic dynamics. How did you go about achieving that balance, and what particular elements of 90s music inspired the band?
I mean, if I can say it, I think a lot of the 90s influence is vocally, and then a lot of the instrumentation is really contemporary. So it's kind of like we've fused this. I mean, Brenton, correct me if I'm wrong, because you'll know better than me, but I feel like where the 90s sonic influence really comes from is a vocal element, probably because I'm still listening to the same grunge albums that I was, in the 90s. And then Brenton has this really dynamic, diverse, I suppose, set of influences. So he sort of goes from every era and then throws it all in one song. But Brent, you'd be better to talk about that stuff than me.
Yeah, I'd say there's a fair bit of like early 2000s as well. Like I sort of came up through the metalcore and new metal kind of era, but so there's a fair bit of that in it. And yeah, I'd say there's not as much like hyper modern stuff other than like in the production of what we're going for. We're sort of trying to bring older songwriting into like modern sounds, I guess, is one of the angles we're taking with it. The album's probably a bit all over the place.
I guess between us we have a pretty diverse range of musical influences. It's like we don't just listen to whatever's new. Like I guess we come from backgrounds of listening to stuff from the 90s and even further back than that.
Really?
And bringing just little bits of that into the songwriting and combining it with modern elements. Trying to come up with something new and interesting. Yeah.
I'll just say as well, it's fun trying to work in like extreme metal elements into sort of more accessible songwriting, just seeing what we can get away with.
What do you like? How do you navigate the balance between extreme heaviness and delicate melodic elements in your songwriting?
Brenton and Scott sort of, and I'm sure inevitably Matt soon too. Matt's obviously very new to our ensemble, but at least in the composition of this album, like when Brenton and Scott send stuff, they'll send like riffs or chunks of songs, and then in terms of how to make the sort of more melodic vocals work, I don't know. It's all vibing. I just like vibe with what they're doing and, try to make room for everything. So like if there's a really special guitar moment, I want that to be, because singers, oh, look at me with the singer, But if there's a really special guitar moment, I want that to be heard. So what can I do to complement what's going on as opposed to how do I sing over the band? And so I think a lot of the arrangements of all of the instrumentation, including vocals, a lot of consideration has been taken as to how do we make space for the special moments for each other. So it's like there's this great moment, a beautiful, astonishingly beautiful moment of bass playing in Obstruct that it's like that has to be the feature of that bit. Nothing else should be detracting from that, It's like Scott gets his moment. But like I do think when we contemplate arrangement jointly, all of us are being conscientious about how we make space for each other, as opposed to how do we play over each other. And I think it's from that standpoint that we sort of find that balance.
Yeah, you hear some bands and, the vocals can sometimes be like just this layer of icing over the top of the instruments. And I feel you folks really do focus quite nicely on the songwriting and having each element of the band shine in particular moments.
Definitely try to do that. I find with the demos, a good way to do it is to just try to make a playground for Lindsay to just see what she comes up with. So it's writing these like complex songs and then stripping bits out and seeing what she puts in instead, or just trying to see how we can bring the best out of each other, I guess.
Yeah, it's always a lot of fun too. I love it when Scott we demo digitally. So like we don't sit there and jam stuff to write it. We'll like put ideas together, or the guys will put ideas together.
Some of the older songs on the album were done in the jam room, but
that's true.
For the most part.
Yeah, that's true actually. Sorry, but for the most part, it sort of all starts with a digital idea and then we sort of add our own layers to it. And what's so much fun is when like Brenton or Scott send something and then I'll do something and I'll be like, was it anything like what you imagined? And they'll be like, no, not at all. It's like miles off what they're intending to happen.
Usually better.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Albeit surprising.
Yeah, the arrangements are often described as cinematic, with influences from progressive death metal, gothic rock, and even video game music. Were there any specific artists or soundtracks or scores that shaped your approach to writing Ruminations?
I'll let some of the other guys start with that one.
I'm scared that Brenton's going to be like Andrew Lloyd Webber, and then I'm going to have to come over and punch him. I will drive to your house. I will drive to your house.
I obviously contribute to the songwriting. Brenton writes a lot of the initial demos, and we sort of come in and add to it and rearrange bits and pieces. I guess for me, I like to take like sonic elements and like songwriting elements from artists that I really respect and draw a lot of influence from. Like, I listened to a lot of Tesseract, like as I was, sort of new to the band. So I was like doing a lot of like slap and thumb bass stuff, which didn't really end up on the album, but like just the way that Amos approaches writing his bass parts and filling in the low end and just like backing right off and keeping it really simple. And then, sort of coming in with more techie sounding bits, but also, writing the drum tracks and stuff. Like, obviously, love Meshuggah, love a little bit of Bloodbath and stuff, but I kind of feel like, I don't know, like writing the drum parts. I like to try and make the drums musical, and obviously Ash came in and just added like so much flair and so much color to the drums as well. I guess drawing on a lot of, like, for me, Tesseract, Opeth, even a little bit of like Led Zeppelin and some of my older influences. Just kept trying to keep the bass sounding real organic and not just sort of like someone tapped it out on like, MIDI bass program or something. But yeah.
I think along the movie side of it, tried to steal, well, not steal, but borrow bits from the like, you know, your Blade Runner soundtracks, your John Carpenter stuff. Along the video game world, I grew up playing a lot of RPGs, so all that, like the Japanese composers sort of worked their way into my brain.
The synergy between Lindsay's vocals and your guitar, it's been compared to classical string arrangements rather than traditional metal melodies. How did you and Lindsay develop that distinctive compositional approach on Ruminations?
I'd say it started back with a song we did called Hide and Seek, right?
Yeah, I was about to say, it was Hide and Seek. We were just standing in the pool shed, and you had the E-bow, and I was like mimicking the E-bow, and then I was like, this is creepy as, like, we're going to do this as a thing. Yeah, it's sick. And now, yeah, I love it. I love making it, it's either slightly uncomfortable because you can't tell if it's a guitar or voice. Like
where one ends and where the other starts.
Yeah, exactly. But also it's nice.
Because of that, we sort of worked out that you can like harmonize the voice with the guitar, and there's enough tonal crossover that they are still harmonizing quite nicely. So
yeah,
it gives Lindsay a chance to do the upper harmonies live as well.
Yeah, I love that. Love doing that. Loved it. Love singing high live. That's my favorite thing in the whole world.
Awesome. So, upon listening to Ruminations for the first time, what do you hope the audience take away from it, both musically and emotionally?
Emotionally, I hope people experience catharsism. Like, I want the music to feel like a space and an experience, as opposed to something that you just put on in the background. And, I think that I want people to feel something, and each song kind of has its own mood. I mean, they're very different songs. It's sort of strange that in my opinion, the album flows quite nicely because they are really, really different sounds. But I think the idea of it all having a different mood, but every song has a kind of moment of completion, like it story tells. So I sort of hope, at least emotionally, when people listen to the album, they experience a sort of connection to the music, but also feel heard in a way, like it's their story in the music. It's not us singing about us. We're like singing about us as people, not, us as individuals. But yeah, don't know what the guys think. That's certainly what I hope.
But we also want a healthy smattering of stank face.
We do like a little stank face.
Yeah.
From my perspective, learning these songs without being the one who wrote them, a lot of that rings true, especially the idea of like catharsis, like as you say, like a lot of these songs just have these moments where it just all comes together. And yeah, it's hard to kind of listen to each song individually. You kind of have to look at them back to back, which I think is a pretty good sign for albums. I don't know, that's my 2 cents, personally.
That's really cool, Matt. Thank you.
Good job.
It's glad to hear you've got that cohesion in the band. I think that's amazing. And like, someone just steps straight in and, can feel that vibe of the album. That's amazing.
Definitely. So
you've stated that Ruminations was created with the intention of making sure every track slaps while maintaining that narrative arc that we were just talking about. How did you approach that balance between accessibility and the cohesion we were just talking about? How did you achieve it?
Brenton has like 1,500 pieces of music. So I think the way we achieved it, is that even an exaggeration, Brenton? I don't think so. I think that's not even hyperbole.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
not all of them are winners, So
I think it was a case of like just going through stuff, writing stuff, because obviously there's a number of pieces of music that are not on the album, and sort of working out which ones we're going to have some type of continuity with each other, but also which ones, when we imagined if we were sitting in an audience and we were listening to this album played start to finish, what are the songs that we would have the most fun or the greatest connection to? And so I think that really governed the decision making about what songs ended up on the album. but also, you know, those of us who were extremely young and grew up when Linkin Park first came out. You know, Hybrid Theory was such an epic album because every track on that album stood on its own. Like you could release any song on that album as a single and it would be an absolute tune. And I think Brenton before was talking about, you know, a lot of our influences are from when we were growing up, which we will not mention. And, you know, bands like that, Deftones are another one that were doing it. Like every song on every album was just so good. So I think that, you know, a lot of how we picked and choose was trying to take ourselves out of the band. How would we react to it if we were listening to it?
Just selfishly, like, we're just writing these for ourselves as well. Like, I'm Scott Lindsay's biggest fan. So.
Yeah, we are. We're just like, how do we have the most fun with each other as well? That sounds fucked up. But how do we have the most fun with each other as well? Like, when we're on stage, you know, like, you know, how do we have the most fun putting the music on too? So that's, yeah, definitely. I think we're like each other's biggest advocates. Poor Matt's going to have to get used to hearing some compliments. We do really believe in each other's ability as well. So quite often, you know, we're challenging each other because we know we can rise to it. And I don't think any of us have either written or contributed to has necessarily been easy. But we enjoy the challenge and we enjoy challenging each other to meet, you know, where we're going. So I do think that's a huge part of it too, is like there's a little bit of cheekiness in all of our music for that reason.
Listening to the album, it's got that nice distinctive prog flavour. I mean, I don't think a track like Viscera would have sat in the album. That's my opinion. I feel like that is more of like a heavier track, whereas I feel Ruminations is a very prog-centric album. That's my opinion.
Oh, yeah, I think so. I mean, the funny thing is, sorry, I just, because I'm a lawyer, I just automatically talk because I think I'm entitled to. But I'm so sorry, the poor guys. I agree with you. I think that Viscera was very much the oddball of songs that we play. We love playing it live. It's one of our favourite songs to perform live, and we will keep playing it live. But we wanted the album to show that you can play progressive and technical music, but it can still be accessible. It can still be, you know, melodic is the wrong word, but it can be relatable, because I think a lot of prog vocals, speaking for vocals anyway, are often not big. Like it's kind of like the voice comes second to the instruments because the instruments are just so extraordinary. So we were like, these songs we felt best represented just how far, at least at this stage, we can take our instrumentation and our vocals, because songs like Viscera are really, you know, sort of like a proggy death core, not deathcore, but, you know, probably death metal / metalcore kind of song. Whereas these ones, we were like, we've really pushed what we can arrange in these songs for the moment. Lord knows what we've got up our sleeve.
Ooh, we'll come to that later. So how does writing and performing deeply personal songs impact you emotionally?
Brenton has no emotions.
But to answer seriously, I find it makes it really easy to get lost in the songs on stage because they're personal. Like, we can just sort of bask in them, I guess, in a weird way.
Yeah, playing them on stage is obviously it can be challenging sometimes, especially when you've written a part that's it's like really pushing the envelope of what I'm capable of. Yeah, but I think being able to share some of that emotion with like an audience when you're performing it live is a really cool feeling. It's like, you know, so many of my favorite songs and albums are not necessarily complicated or complex, I guess, for lack of a better word. They're songs that really have a strong emotional impact. It's just cool to be able to share that with other people. And so, yeah, I don't know, that definitely fills my cup, you know.
Like, there's that moment, that sort of crescendo in the middle of Obstruct, and like occasionally I'll just kind of stop and look at what's going on, and like, you know, and I've had like Joe Varley from DarKSpirit come up after we've done a set and just been like, you have no idea how many people are crying. Like, there's a few, I mean, that's a song that I think actually translates much better live than recorded anyway, but because it's so sort of, and it has this like stadium epicness about it live. But I feel so connected to the lads when we perform, and sometimes I'll forget that there's an audience there. Just not good. Like, and Matt, I really look forward to you getting to experience this with us at our album launch, which is coming soon. But I bet, no, it's going to be so much fun, mate, I promise. But it is so incredible having these amazing people that we get to share these connections with on stage, but then also feeling the energy of the room shift as we're sort of shifting, you know, the mood around us. Is quite empowering, but not in like an ego way, more in a to affect influence like that, you know, is such a honor, honestly, and it actually is quite humbling, and I think we're very aware of the responsibility that kind of comes from that. And so when we're performing live, we definitely like to immerse ourselves so that people are getting the most authentic performance of the music. It's not some contrived choreographed show. Like it's just lose ourselves to the music, the moment, you know, kind of thing. Probably not. You'll never hear me rap again. That was it. No,
it's coming, you know.
That's rap metal.
Totally, that's the next album, right? So, from starting the band in a pool shed during lockdowns to sharing stages with heavy Aussie icons like Carnival and Caligula's Horse, and now releasing your first full-length album, your faster set has been an absolute pleasure to watch for me personally, and no doubt the fans are in the same boat as me. What were the key turning points in your rise within the Aussie metal scene, do you think?
You know what? I think it's a couple of things. One, I think we put on a good live show. Like, I really do believe that we've had member changes, we've had all kinds of stuff, but the one thing we've always been consistent in is when, if you're going to come see us live, you're getting a great performance. But I think the other thing is actually the way we engage with people who support us. So we very much see it as an honour to be able to perform for people and to share our music with people. And I think from that, we do things from a place of gratitude, never from a place of entitlement. And because of that, we've built really great relationships with people, like with stakeholders and stuff, because, you know, you'll never hear any of us, I think, demand anything or expect anything. And we'll always be the first to try to sort of elevate people around us as well. So I think those two features, which just sounds so basic, but I just think those two features are kind of what has helped us. And I think, you know, our releases so far have been all right. A little all right.
For me personally, being introduced to the band after the initial EP, I sort of came on board at that time of Irrelevance, and that thing just exploded, and you folks had like 50,000 views in the matter of days, and it was just so amazing to watch that star just ascend. I love that. Tell me how that felt.
Definitely surreal.
I think undeserving, maybe. I don't know. We're all like actually pretty humble people, and I think we all have a pretty severe case of imposter syndrome, and also we are our own worst critics. And actually, ironically, a lot of the album Ruminations is about overcoming those exact traits. But it did make the reception to Irrelevance feel very exciting, but also scary. We were like, how do you live up to people's expectations when they kind of start off that high, you know? Like, so it's definitely added an element of pressure, but I also think pressure can be very healthy for creativity and keeping people inspired. So it's not negative pressure, but yeah, it was exciting, but also we're constantly like, how do we do how do we keep doing that?
I would say, well, like, we started off trying to do everything, like, do it yourself. Like, if we could do it without paying someone, that's how we tried to do it. And like all the way through the EP, that's pretty much how we went, apart from the videos and stuff. But sort of Irrelevance was when we sort of started thinking things through a bit better, planning it out from a like project management perspective as well, I guess.
Totally. I mean, I still think, Brenton, you did an incredible job with the EP, genuinely. I think Carousel to this day is still my favorite Primrose Path song. Like, it's my, like, I love that song. I put it on regularly, which is weird. But I think we changed drummers. The biggest problem was, I think Primrose Path might always have had a bit more of that irrelevancy or current sound. We just didn't have a drummer who could play it. So, we would almost like reverse engineer the music to make it more rocky, instead of a fusion of rock and ambience with metal elements. We were sort of losing that side of stuff. And I think where we realized we were going to have to step up was with Irrelevance, because Brenton decided to come out and write something that there was no way in hell we were going to be able to record the drums of. So it was sort of like...
Yeah, the original demo was pretty unhinged, to be honest.
The original demo is... I still have PTSD from the original demo. Oh my God. One day we've got to let people hear that. It's wild.
That would be a cool little B-side that you folks could release at some point in time. I'd be down to hear that.
Is there like an oral version of epileptic glasses, or like, an epilepsy warning? There needs to be one for people's ears after hearing that song.
A lot of our demos start out pretty different to how they get through, even between when, like, before I send off mine, or like Viscera, for example, started off as a funk song. Yeah, that changed a bit.
Well, so coming back to your live performances, as you've said, they're like immersive and emotionally intense, and you can see that connection between you all. How do you translate the complexity of your studio recordings into a live setting while keeping that raw energy intact? How do you do that?
Practice?
We never really have the songs down until we've recorded them. So yeah. It really does feel like after they're recorded, they're just so in our bones that the live just follows through, I think. Like,
we use like very light backing tracks. Like, there's usually, like, at any given time, like maybe one other thing going on through the PA. And for a lot of our songs, like for most of the song, there's nothing coming through the backing track. It's just some of those key moments where we need a little bit more oomph. There's like keyboard parts to some new songs on the album that you would have heard that, we don't have a keyboardist as it stands. So I think having some of those other elements coming through, and then us doing everything on the guitars, the drums, the bass, the vocals, I think combining those elements and kind of helps it come together.
Definitely. I think, people poo-poo backing tracks all the time, but like, unless we have a whole choir, I can't do live half the stuff that we record. And
I certainly can't do the backing vocals.
That's not true. Scott and Brenton do actually do some of the vocals live, so it's not entirely backing track, but it's definitely like there's Scott sneaks in beautiful mellotrons everywhere, or we might have soundscapes going on in the background that, if you listen to the album, is probably almost inaudible at times, but it adds to the atmosphere live. And so, if you took that out of the live show, it would be very obvious, but with it in the live show, it's kind of subtle, if that makes sense. So, but in terms of production, the guys are using amps and pedals and, just doing their best to emulate the recorded sound live. There's no, correct me if I'm wrong, gentlemen, but there's no real tricks to it. Like the what is recorded is them playing, and it's to that end, even though it's a very contemporary sounding album in many respects, they're rocking amps and pedals and cabs around, and very organic in the fact that it is actually just them playing, albeit with some fancy plugins. Am I right?
Yeah. There's something to be said of like being able to feel the sound like blasting behind you as you're performing on stage.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
It's going to be a hard pill to swallow, I think, when we're like, cool, we're going on tour, and then all of a sudden we've just got racks and like, everything's going DI, and there's all these like, what are those hexy something? What are they called?
Helix. Quad cortex, yeah.
Yeah, it's just going to be a state. It's going to be weird when that happens because, if you come to a Primrose show, you're going to hear proper amps and people clicking pedals around. I don't know. I love that. Even as a singer, I use guitar pedals. There's something about it. So we do, what you're hearing on the album is what you're going to get live. It's just that, we create it live, but we are a live band. We're not really a studio band. We're a live band that has to record crap so that we can market to biggies. I reckon is like the best way to put it.
So no modelling at all for the guitars and bass?
Not live. On the album, it's all modelling.
Right. But you prefer that light, meaty sound that you get from a tube or a transistor amp?
Yeah. I like using it, yeah. I got nothing against using digital personally. I just haven't gone down that rabbit hole yet.
Fair call. So with Matt Gashk joining the band on guitar, and Ash Ducourt from Voyager also joining as a sessional drummer, how has their inclusion influenced the band's dynamics?
Well, Matt, do you dare to be heard on this? No. No, I think it's been fantastic. Matt's good fun. And so is Ash. Gosh, I think I can speak for Brenton and Scott when I say it hasn't changed our dynamics because, Brenton, Scott and I have been really close friends now for, 5 years. 4 years, 5 years, I can't math. What I will say is that they have added to it, if that makes sense. So, they're extraordinarily good people and they don't seem to mind that we're weird and quirky and have just managed to slide in very comfortably. So, but also we just wanted to find people to work with that we could sit on a tour bus with and drink cups of tea and talk about sci-fi movies or, I don't know, industrial music or horror. I don't know, like people that we could share the journey with who felt familial and were sort of a similar level of simplicity in many ways that we are, because we're not massive party animals who are going to be out drinking all night, and we're actually really, really, really fucking uncool. I don't know, Matt, you're regretting it now?
From my perspective, the dynamics, it's very easy to slot into. Everyone's very uncool and I'm uncool, so it works out really well. No, I don't know, just there's a lot of back and forth. Everyone knows each other really well, and at no point has it felt like, I don't know, I've been in some bands where it's like the room can get still sometimes with certain back and forths or relationships between members, but especially with Primrose Path, I'm finding it's just every time I rock up to something with you guys, I have to remind myself to be like, oh, it's chill. I don't need to worry. I don't need to put anything on or worry about who's going to say what. It's just going to be lovely so far.
It's all right. We'll bring some drama for you, Matt. Just wait until you see Scott and I have a punch up over a 1% shift in color over album art.
Oh yeah, those are the arguments. The artwork,
and it's always me and Scott. Always we are unkind. We are unkind to each other. But it's always
it comes from a place of passion though. We both want the best possible artwork, and we both butt heads over it. But ultimately, we somehow come to a compromise and end up with something really cool. So it works out in the end.
Love that we can literally message each other some really offensive shit see each other 2 seconds later, like, hey man, how's it going? As if we didn't just like tear each other's asses off online. So wild. It's like we need a documentary so people can see this, because it's quite like it's very unusual. But yeah, sorry about the artwork, Andy.
Yeah, sure. So tell us about that collaborative process between the two of you. I mean, you sort of dived into it then, but yeah, tell us more.
Oh, Scott, you may as well start. You started.
Yeah. So we coined the album name Ruminations like ages ago, but it was like, yeah, our first album's going to be called Ruminations. So like we obviously had a lot of time to sort of mull over how that could be represented visually. And I think a lot of the imagery we were coming up with was like, heads with thoughts exploding out, like, complicated thoughts represented through like abstract visual imagery. So yeah, when it came time to make the artwork, we sort of mocked up a few pieces, and I went ahead and painted the base artwork, which I actually have over here. If you want me to show you.
Show it.
We could see
real
BTS
painting
stuff right here.
So it obviously looks quite different to how it is on the final piece. I'll just move this out of the way. That's the artwork on a nice big canvas. And I guess one of the other things that we really wanted to achieve with the artwork was like combining organic, like hand painted art with something digital. A lot of our music is about connection and the chasm between people that's created by this social media digital landscape. So we wanted to combine digital manipulation and editing with a real piece of artwork. The exploding head, the thoughts spilling out as this person sort of looks, contemplative, a little melancholy perhaps. I feel like personally it represents our music pretty well on the album. So yeah, Lindsay.
Oh, that's exactly it. I did all of most of the, I don't know, digital stuff. I should say
all the digital stuff.
I'm not a digital artist. So I had to work out how to do it as I was going. No, I do think that we wanted the album to feel personal, because we had to go through a lot to get to it, like from it being so extraordinarily delayed because of funding. It's not cheap doing what we're doing. Like we wanted to produce a polished album, so between the delay and getting it out, the changing of members, just shit we had going on in our own lives, every one of us in the last couple of years managed to go, what is the worst thing that we could have happen to us? Let's do it right now while we're in the middle of trying to produce an album. So, we had a lot to get through. And so I think the art was important that we did it rather than commission someone else, because you only get one debut album. There's only one chance to do that. And we wanted it to feel personal from start to finish. This was a way to sort of, epitomize our journey together, but also our, what's the word I'm looking for? Like that chapter of life sort of captured. And so, yeah, it was a learning experience, I think, doing art in that way, especially for me, because like I said, I'm not a digital artist, like I was working that out as I went, but it was still, I don't know, it felt like it was the right decision. It's probably not as flash as some people's albums are, I don't know, but I feel like it will ultimately one day be a relic of who we were at this point in time, and that was important to us,
I think to add on to that as well, by doing the artwork ourselves, we really were putting a part of ourselves into the artwork rather than commissioning someone else to do it. And maybe my perspective on the painting is not amazing. We had to do a bit of post digital editing on that, but I think the artwork really is just another way of putting ourselves into the work, rather than having it sort of being passed on to someone else. Not that I'm necessarily criticizing that, but I think we wanted it to be a personal album, and so we needed that to be personal as well.
Totally.
You were talking about funding before. So we're going to run with a bit of a government flavour for the next couple of questions. I've seen photos circulating of our WA Premier, Roger Cook, in a Primrose Path shirt. Can you tell us about that? And also, the government grant funding that you achieved for the production of Ruminations.
Well, I think the reason why we were so keen to actually attend that press conference with the Premier sort of in the lead up to the upcoming election is because the current Western Australian government has made funding promises to Western Australian music to give them some fairly significant, perhaps not enough in the grand scheme of things, but some fairly significant funding that they have been critically short of for, a long time. And because we ourselves were recipients of the government grant, this album would not be finished right now if it were not for support that we've got from the Department of Culture and Arts. We felt it was really important to show that, it's not, we don't align ourselves as a band with anyone politically, but when it comes to supporting music and supporting, access to recording and access to touring, it's very important that, bands like ours who I think do have, we're not, we're no Voyager or Carnival, but bands that do have some clout, I suppose, in the music scene actually show that, we're behind this, and also being very honest about the fact that it's because of that support that we've been able to do what we do. And, that there's a real value in that, not just value in music as a commodity, I suppose, or as a product, but also in terms of and certainly not just in terms of us individually either, although we are extremely grateful and it's certainly enhanced the quality of all of our lives, I'm sure. But it's also about the value that it has in terms of marketing for our music internationally, because the reality is this: the recording of music and music videos are really just marketing tools so that you can play live. Like, at the end of the day, and I know that's an awful way to look at it, but for bands, or at least bands like ours who want to play live, they are tools so that we can get exposure, so that we can get those opportunities, and so that we can, go overseas or go interstate, or do good supports here. Now, if we're producing really good high-end music in this state, we will encourage people to come here to perform. And, Western Australia it's so isolated. I mean, I'm from Melbourne, so it was a really eye-opening experience coming here. We missed out on so many fantastic bands and so many fantastic live performances, solo artists and whatever. So it was like, if we can elevate the quality of what's coming out of this state, then hopefully that will motivate people to come here, but also hopefully motivate people who are here to want to experience these things live. And I just think, it's unmotivating. I think I'm making up words. It's
demotivating.
Demotivating when you listen to we put out this great album and the mixing and mastering, everything about it is just average. So it's not going to encourage the average punter to come to a venue. But if you put out something good, hopefully, we can assist in keeping live music, as a space where humans actually share each other's presences, because we are moving in a much more digital way. So I think, that whole, Roger Cook, Mr. Cookie, wearing a Primrose shirt was very much just us wanting to show that, we value live music and we value what that means to our community. And, we want to do whatever we can to support that.
So how do you think government support impacts the Aussie heavy music scene as a whole?
Look, this is my personal opinion, but I think where it would be of great assistance is the slow eradication of festivals is highly problematic for bands. And I just mean bands in general, not just necessarily heavy metal bands. There was already a critical shortage of heavy metal festivals and heavy metal things happening in Australia. But where it would be helpful, I think, is in terms of the heavy music scene, probably has more to do with the fact that the alternative music scene in general does tend to be unrepresented a lot, but they also do tend to be people that I would perhaps characterize as more likely to be introverted or nerdy or computer gamey, or so there's always been a bit of an attitude that or they're edgy and depressed, or they're into black metal. We have to forgive people who listen to that, Brenton. But it's like they were already unrepresented, but they also in many respects often include a lot of intellectuals and academics and professionals, and it's actually a really diverse scene. And where I think government intervention becomes important is that we want any person, in my view, who's a member of our society to feel like they have a place to go, where they can be, where they can belong, and not depending on online to do that. Like, actually have a space where we connect as people again. I know we're slowly forgetting how to do that, but I think that keeping live music alive from metal bands and bands who are really only making money from gigs, because no one's making shit from Spotify. Like, most merch gets sold at a gig. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you want metal bands to have a future, it has to be on stages, because in reality they are not making money off streaming or anything other than merch sales and live performance. So it's multifaceted, the value that it has, obviously, and I'm certainly not political or intellectual enough to fully grasp it myself. But it's we're at a pivotal point now where metal bands could very quickly just disappear, because it's not accessible to pay the kind of money, for most people, the kind of money that we spent on the album. Like, most bands could never do that. We were just, the recipients of a grant. So, and it would be very sad to see this extremely technical and still beautiful area of music fade away into oblivion.
Absolutely. So coming back to, you were talking about Perth before, but the Aussie metal scene, in particular Perth, has always been a hotbed for progressive talent. What advice would you give to up-and-coming local bands trying to carve their own path?
I mean, my only advice is just be obsessive about it. If you want to, if you're doing technical music, you have to be obsessive about it.
I think as well, it's not just about the music. We've gone through a lot of trial and error and had to do a lot of research. And obviously we have our manager, Donna, on board now, but learning the ropes in terms of music as a business, because music is, us in our bedrooms recording, cool shit and sending it to each other and turning it into songs and playing on stage and stuff. But music is also, whether you like it or not, it is a business, and you have to treat it as such. You have to do promotion. You have to, register your music on APRA and all these other places. You have to. There's all these other different things. So I guess if you're just starting out, it's not just about the music. It's not just about playing shows. You've also got to come at it from a business perspective and figure out what you can do to promote your band, get your music out there, get your visuals out there, while also still maintaining a sense of community, going out and supporting other bands. Just connecting with people on social media and things like that. So that's the advice I would give. You've got to also treat it like a business if you want to get anywhere. Unfortunately, I hate that aspect of it. It always feels so weird, like jumping on social media and talking in front of the camera. It's like, I just want to be playing music on stage, man. Yeah, it just feels so awkward a bit. Yeah.
No, having a sense of business acumen is really important, and I think one of the most important things Scott raised is go watch your mates play. Like, don't be one of those people who's like, oh, support local music. Oh my God, you got to support local music, and then don't go to a single freaking show. Like, it's just like, because we know, we're watching. We know when you post that post and you don't come to our gigs. Like, we see you, But it's also like, but it's also, it's about building collegiality. And like, if one of us succeeds, we can elevate all of it, each other. So having a sense of community as opposed to a sense of competition, I think, is really important. But my one pro tip is polish your shit, not literally, but figuratively. Polish your shit. Do nice photographs. Do good sounding music. To make sure your content looks nice. Put an effort into producing something that doesn't look amateur-y. It's not hard. Half the shit in my office right now was either pulled up. That's old decking to start, literally old decking. My ring lights from Kmart. You don't need to go over the top in terms of expenditure to polish something to be able to produce something that looks nice. And I think that the effort in that is actually minimal, but the payoff in terms of if you're imagining reach online, especially with photographic content, the payoff is exponential, because I can watch the analytics on a photograph that was perhaps not, like maybe just slightly out of focus. It's like, those people aren't serious. Post one of Joe's photographs where we're all looking like extraordinary, and next thing you know, it's had, 4,400 clicks or something. So, polish your shit. One of the most important tips I can give.
No one in this world will give a fuck about your band as much as you.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's good. That is really solid.
Speaking of polish, Primrose Path has gained enviable industry recognition from the Prog Mind and the Prog Space, ranking you among industry heavyweights such as Sleep Token and Opeth. How does that level of acknowledgement influence your mindset going forward?
Doesn't feel real, I'll give it that. I would say it's just a good feeling to know that what we're doing is like resonating on that level. Like we've been sort of working on this in isolation for so long, and to have it out there and have that kind of recognition from those heavyweights, or at least placing among them, I think it just makes us a bit scared.
Yeah, totally. Just scared, afraid, and small, and not quite sure what to do with the information when it happens.
Yeah.
But if you're not scared, then you're not growing, right?
Totally.
That's it.
No, I think we've been really blessed to have the support of Prog Space and Prog Mind and I don't know whoever else there is. I can't think right now. We have been really lucky. They came, Prog Space, Dario came across our music by accident on some Spotify. I don't know. It was an accident. And, ever since then has really tracked what we're doing. And then I think through him, Jason from Prog Mind obviously caught onto it. And since then there have been others. And I feel like it was largely accidental. Like, none of us reached out to be, like, at no point did we reach out to be seen. None of us put our hands up and like, hey, pay attention to us. It was just pure luck. But for me, the thing that I take from being sort of, having all of our singles sort of ranked in amongst many of our major influences, for me, it just tends to affirm that it's worth it. Like, because we all work full time. Like, music is not our full-time job. So it's like, it's very difficult at times. It's taxing. It's difficult on our relationships. I have 3 dogs barking at the door right now. I hope you can't hear them. It's, but on top of that, as Brenton said, it can be isolating. Like, when we're writing demos and stuff, Brenton probably spends hours in his room, like a little mushroom. Then it comes to Scott and he sits there like a mushroom, and then I do the same thing. The jamming and playing of it is very pleasurable and it's collective, but there's a lot of stuff we're doing on our own. When we're writing press kits or planning photos or writing movie treatments, or it's late nights and it's a lot of isolation at times. And I think for me, what I take from seeing anything recognized, even if it's marginally recognized, is just a reminder that those moments that are hard are absolutely worth it, because hopefully someone is feeling something good as a result of what we're doing.
It definitely helps with the imposter syndrome as well. Like, you know, you'll sit there and you'll write a demo and listen to it and like, yeah, this is really cool, and listen to it the next day and you're like, oh man, this sucks. And then, you know, you find yourself re-recording the same part for the demo over and over again until you get it right. And like, it's like, obviously a lot of work goes on behind the scenes, and then to get that kind of recognition is just, it's very humbling. And yeah, it makes all the hard work just so much more worth it, I think.
Your collaboration with DarKSpirit Photography has been a key part of Primrose Path's visual identity. What drew you to working with Joe Varley and his team, and how has their vision enhanced your music?
I went on a massive Facebook stalk of all of the local bands in Perth, because most people probably don't know this, but none of us were in the band scene really. Like Matt might have been, and Brenton was probably over a decade ago, but for a long time, none of us, I'm not even from here, so we didn't know anyone, right? So I was like, right, I'm getting on Facebook and I'm stalking some people. And when I looked at, Joseph's work, I was like, cool, that's who I really think would complement our aesthetic. He took photographs at our second ever gig, and then it's kind of all, the rest is history. Like we became very close friends with Joseph. Like, you know, he's a bit of a humble nerd like us, and was so knowledgeable because he's been in the music scene for so long. Like, he kind of knew everyone. We would not have an inch of what we have now if it really weren't for his help, though, because he introduced me and the guys to so many people, and encouraged bands to let us play with them, you know, opportunities that we would never otherwise have gotten. He'd be like, hey, have you heard of Primrose Path? You should let them play at your gig, you know. That's him typing, by the way. That's not me just like going weird. But it was like hugely beneficial to us, I suppose, that he is so generous with his network, with his time. He genuinely wants to see bands succeed. Like, he's not, I don't know, he's quite altruistic in his work, in that he's putting all of his heart and soul into doing the best video he can for that band, within the confines of their budget or their vision, so that they do well. He never once thinks about him doing well. Like, I've lectured that bastard about marketing better for like 4 years now, and he never listens to me. But he really cares about others doing well. So I actually attribute a great deal of what we have to Joseph's generosity in helping us become a part of this heavy community, because we were flies on a wall before then.
It's also hugely motivating just trying to live up to how cool he makes us look.
Really?
Yeah.
Like, seeing those photos and like, damn, we better bring it.
Exactly.
Such a great personality fit, like you said as well, Lindsay. Like, I think we just immediately gelled with him, I think, when we met him and he did those photos for us. And I think there was an immediate like friendship there. And yeah, it's just like having someone to work with like Joe. He's kind of like our, I can never pronounce his name right. What's Stephen Wilson's photographer, Lasse Hoyer, that he's worked with for 200 years.
Yeah. But I think when you grow with an artist like that, you grow your vision together, like, I can tell you right now, Joe has never used as many distortion effects and all kinds of crap since all of us are like, we don't want this video to look like another metalcore video, Joe. So all of a sudden he's like, oh. But also, I think for Matt as well, Matt, you've only recently joined us. Like, how did you find working with Joe? Like this, Matt did his first 2 music videos with us in January, so they're freaking cool.
I would say his excitement about the band is really infectious, and it's kind of what got me excited, really. Like, joining the band, I was like, oh, this is great. It's a great opportunity. But then after our photo shoot, which I think our socials are now, after that photo shoot, I was parked next to him in the parking garage, and he was like, oh, by the way, do you want to hop in the car and I'll play you the album? I don't know if you've heard it yet. And I was like, oh, yeah. And then hearing him like nerd out about every single track as I came up, blasting through the car in this empty car park at like 11 or whatever, it kind of like really solidified it for me. I was like, oh, shit, here we go. This is kind of a thing that's happening.
That's so adorable.
Yeah, he's an absolute legend, obviously. I can't wait to work with him more.
So what I'm hearing loud and clear is that Joe's impact on your band isn't just the visual elements, it's the personal elements as well.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
But that's something that we really love about our band. We try to be quite familial. Like, I know that sounds weird, but I mean, maybe it is, but I think because Brenton and I and our original other guitar, well, actually, before Primrose Path was Primrose Path, it was Brenton and his stepbrother jamming in the pool shed, and then I just injected myself into that. And so originally it was sort of us three siblings, for lack of a better word. And so the band has always had this kind of familial undertone about it. Like, Scott joined us very early on, and, you know, Scott's just like our brother from another mother, a bit more hair than Brenton and I, but, you know, and in a similar way to Joe, who just kind of slid in as like our, you know, weird city uncle. You know, I feel joking. Is Joe going to see that? Maybe cut that out. Sorry, Joe.
Not specifically to Joe.
You said worse, man.
I've said it. I know. Now he gives it back. But Matt was the same. Matt just kind of like, you know, has. I haven't said this to Matt himself, but. You know, Matt has just kind of slid in, and it's weird, but I kind of feel like Matt was just always there. Like, and that's like that, Matt, that's like not like like you're invisible kind of thing. It's more like you just kind of came in and it was like, okay, it was like you were always there. It wigs me out that you weren't. It wigs me out that we haven't done a live show yet, you know, like I just kind of, but that's one of the things that I love about Primrose is that there is this kind of family vibe about it. That, you know, I really hope we don't ever lose. I mean, Brenton, we're stuck with each other, but I really hope, you know, we never lose that, because it's something that I really admired also. I mean, you know, obviously, growing up with my brothers-in-law, you know, and Perth being such a small place, it's something that I really appreciate about being in Western Australia, because I'm from Melbourne and I can tell you it's not like that there. But here, you know, there is the real potential for people to be close still. And so, yeah, I know Joe's a bit, he's just our sixth member, really.
Yeah, because it's not just the music videos he does. I mean, he also contributes stage visuals and stuff like that, doesn't he?
Yeah. Well, he has, like, he's helped us with some stuff, but also Dean from Beatmatch Design, who works with Joe, he's going to be doing all of our stage lighting and set design for our album launch. And him and Joe obviously put Voyager's stuff together a lot and did all of their Eurovision stuff. So, you know, those two actually work really wonderfully together. And Dean's another one who just kind of like slid in your DMs and is just now a member. Like, he's just so equally as excited. I mean, he listens to the music and feels it and then works out how to make that work in terms of lasers and stuff. But again, there is that sort of like, I don't know, I kind of feel like all these people are our brothers, you know, and we're just all, oh my God, they're starting a cult. I've got a plan. Yeah, so I think he contributes to that. He does our photography. He helps us with making reels sometimes. He helps us with our Spotify. I don't have Spotify backgroundy, majiggy things that move or something. You know.
Canvases, yeah.
Canvases, thank you. You know, but also because Joe is one of our best friends, I spent a lot of time talking to Joe about what I want things to look like. And also hearing his ideas about what he wants things to look like, often poo-pooing his ideas and then ultimately probably saying he was right. But that's between us.
With Ruminations marking such a strong debut, what's next for you folks? Like, do you have any ideas brewing for the next evolution of your sound?
Double concept album.
I want to see how ambient and how heavy we can make an album. Maybe that should be our goal. Like, how do we make the most elegant, beautiful, spacey, pretty stuff entirely juxtaposed with how do we do the filthiest, dirtiest, darkest shit? Maybe we'll see if we can do that. I don't know. No, we've got lots of stuff there.
Any stuff you can reveal, or is it all under wraps?
Brenton?
Oh, what's under wraps? We've got a few different directions we could take it. But yeah, definitely pushing the boundary of heavy is something we're interested in a little bit.
Bringing some much more, like you were saying before, melodic and atmospheric stuff in, because we had a few songs that are, kind of like hide and seek in a way, much like less on the heavy side, more on the melodic side, that we were sort of like, we want our debut to be like really punchy and like every song to be like a banger. I think we really would like to be able to bring some of that more melodic stuff back into the fold, and then have these heavy moments that absolutely crush you straight after, lulling you into this, beautiful soundscape sort of stuff. Like Brenton said, pushing the limits of what we can do with that, and while still telling a story from song to song.
And also, we have Matt for the first time, available now to contribute to the contribute to the composition. So, a lot of these things that the three of us might have had in our head are likely to evolve a lot now that we have Matt and Matt's skill set. I mean, Matt's recently just graduated from the jazz stream. We're going to say this wrong. Is it Wappa or Whopper?
Whopper.
Is it Whopper, like the burger?
Yeah.
Correct.
I would be like Wappa because saying you like burger is stupid. But anyway, I'm from Melbourne. I don't understand these things. But yeah, so like this is the first time we will have had Matt's contribution, and also a bit like the last 5 songs in the album from Hex onward, where we've had Ash adding his contribution to the drum writing, has obviously had an influence on our sound as well. So we have an idea of where we thought things were going to go, but like, honestly, who freaking knows? We have these stupidly talented people to work with, and, getting to have fun with that, I think, is what we're looking forward to the most. But I think our focus for the next 6 months is going to be getting overseas. We want to be touring, we want to be playing, we want to be, we are not a studio band. Like, we obviously want to keep producing singles, and we have some ideas in our head. I actually really want to approach Nick from 12 Foot Ninja to see if he would be interested in doing some session vocals with us as well. But, in terms of our direction, we'll keep doing singles, we'll keep doing whatever it takes to keep content rolling. But our goal is, how do we get on stages? That's our dream, is live performance more than anything.
And yeah, building the songs up, like these 8 songs, it was over quite a long period of time, so I feel like we got really confident towards the end of it in like adding more orchestration, making them a bit more, just more moving parts. So that's something we'll be moving forward with. And we wrote more songs than we have for the album, so we'll see what happens with those.
And definitely, like you said, having Matt on board, incredibly talented guitarist, also multi-instrumentalist. He can also play piano.
Barely.
He's a real talented guy. So I'm excited to hear what he comes up with. And
Ruminations drops on Friday the 28th of Feb. Are there any other dates that you folks want to talk about? Now's the time to plug. Let's do it.
All right. Well, we haven't announced the full lineup yet, but we are doing our album launch on the 26th of April 2025 at Amplifier Bar. I promise you the bands playing on this show are going to put on a very memorable show. It's going to be great. We didn't want to just put on another gig. We wanted to put on an experience. And so, we have selected bands who are, not just compatible with our sound and also really good people, because that's important to us. That we like to create an environment where we all feel like we're among friends, not in like a exclusive way, just in we know then there's not going to be any bullshit. Like, it's just, we're here to play music and we're here to share it with people. But it should be a lot of fun. So yeah, 26th of April at Amplifier Bar. It's the Anzac Day long weekend, and it's the Saturday night. So hopefully everyone is recovered from their, Anzac Day 4 a.m. dawn service the day before and has had a bit of sleep and is ready to come rock it at Amplifier Bar.
Sounds fucking awesome.
That'd be cool.
So, more of a personal question. What's the highest score on Flappy Brent? And could you tell us about the underlying tech used to build the game, mate?
Well, that actually just started as a joke for the group chat that got a bit out of hand, so I polished it up a bit. Yeah, I've done a bit of game development in the past, so I just built it in Unity. My highest score is 400 and something.
Embarrassing. How long did it take you to get to that?
I mean, that was probably a few hours. I mean, when you develop it, it's kind of cheating.
A few hours?
You know how it works.
You played that game for a few hours? Is it just Viscera, the repeat?
Yeah. Well, while you're developing, you have to test it, You can't help but get good at it.
My top score was 3. No, I'm not joking. It was 3. It's like, fuck this. I cracked it and walked off. I was like, I'm not doing this anymore.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. The rhythms that I was generating in that game would not be welcome on any stage, let alone a rehearsal studio. Bloody horrible.
Yeah, play it on mute.
Awesome, folks. Is there anything else that you folks wanted to cover before we wrap this one up?
I just want to say thank you, Andy, because you've been coming to our shows for a long time, and it's always a pleasure to see you. And, I think you embody the exact same ethos that we try to, and that is that we're here for each other and we turn up for each other and, we celebrate music together, but also, we respect each other, and I love that, so thank you, and giving us the chance to sit on your show. This is the first time we've ever done something like this with all of us, so you popped out
You've smashed it out of the park.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, awesome. I really appreciate those sentiments. I mean, been around in the industry since far out 2001. And have seen a lot of changes in the industry in that time. And for a band like you folks to come along and have that epic prog sound and crushing heaviness is just really refreshing, and I love it.
Oh, thank you. At some stage, we need to have a beer so I can catch all of the goss of the last 23 years.
Folks, thank you so much for joining me on the AndoVocals podcast today, and really looking forward to seeing Ruminations drop on Friday, Feb 28. It's going to be an absolute banger.
Ethereal. wait, no, we need to do it in a typically prog way, which means in 5, 4. So we'll do it on the 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. See ya! Yeah, we did that brilliantly. We worked really well on our rhythm.